Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Mahaffey, and today I'm going to be discussing depression and motivation, specifically in regards to how school age children's motivation towards academic performance is impacted by the presence of depression. So, the big question, as stated already, that we will be looking at today is how does depression impact motivation in school age children and influence their academic performance? We will be diving into how depression can alter an individual's cognitive functioning, which can influence how students are motivated and how they make decisions. First, let's start off with defining what depression really is. As defined by the DSM 5, depression is a common and serious mood disorder. Those who suffer from depression experience persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness and lose interest in activities they once enjoyed. In order to receive a diagnosis of depression, an individual must be experiencing five or more symptoms during the same 2 week period, and at least one of the symptoms should be either depressed mood, or loss of interest. These symptoms needed to be experiencing in order to be given a diagnosis of depression are depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day, markedly diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities most of the day or nearly every day, significant weight loss when not dieting or weight gain or decrease or increase in appetite nearly every day, a slowing down of thought and a reduction of physical movement observable by others, fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day, feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt nearly every day, diminished ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness nearly every day, recurrent thoughts of death, recurrent suicidal ideation without a specific plan, or a suicide attempt or a specific plan for committing suicide. Now, let's talk about why this is important in schools. Why does this matter to future school psychologists or educational professionals? The first being that approximately 12.8% of adolescents ages 12 to 17 experience at least one major depressive episode. That equals out to over 3 million students experiencing at least one depressive episode. Of these 3 million students, about two-thirds of them, or 2.2 million students, will have an episode with severe impact. This can include self-harm, suicidal thought, suicidal attempt, or placement in a mental health institution. When it comes to receiving help or treatment of depression, only approximately 19% of students diagnosed with depression receive care from health professionals. These numbers continue to increase yearly and show that when working in a school, likely teachers, school professionals, and anyone else working in the school will come in contact with students who are experiencing depressive symptoms, episodes, or a diagnosis of depression. Now let's talk about the cognitive impact that depression has on an individual and the physiological toll it can take on the brain. Depression can be linked to deficits in cognitive control, which can lead to a variety of deficits in other areas. The human brain works as a system which is interconnected, so different parts of the brain can have effects and impacts over other parts. Think about the brain as an appliance or a type of machinery. If one piece becomes defected or broken, more than likely other pieces of these objects will become defected or unable to work as well. There have been found to be a strong correlation between motivation and the human brain's cognitive process. This means that how well the brain is able to function can impact our motivation as humans. Our motivation also plays a component in our decision making, and different levels of motivation can impact our ability to process and choose how we would handle and contribute to different situations and scenarios. This is a key contributing factor when looking at how motivation can impact a student's academic performance in the classroom. Depression can lead to physiological changes in the brain, which can affect the cognitive control of an individual. These physical areas of the brain that are most severely impacted by depression are the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the dorsomedial thalamus. These areas are contributions to the limbic system in the brain, which plays a role in an individual's emotions, behavior, long-term memory, and olfaction. These areas of cognitive functioning can also be closely related to an individual's motivation. Our emotions can contribute to our motivation because of how strongly we feel towards certain areas or how likely we are to want to participate, how happy we are in situations, how sad we are in situations. Our behavior contributes to how we handle and act in situations, and our long term memory helps us to process and retain information that can be helpful in motivating us in the future. For example, if our long term memory is not functioning properly, we may not retain the information that it would take to feel motivated towards certain subject areas or interactions. Individuals with depression often have large deficits in these areas of cognitive functioning and, in return, can suffer from a lack of motivational drive. As stated earlier in the presentation, depression can often play a large role in the decision-making process because of the physiological effects it can have and the role it plays in an individual's motivation. The effects on motivation can play key roles in how students interact with their classroom environment, and different symptoms of depression may cause these interactions to present differently among different students. For example, students experiencing excessive sleep as a depressive symptom may miss school more often, arrive late, or fall asleep in class. That would mean they're missing class instruction, they're not in class as often as they should be, and they're not able to retain information that is being taught in class. Depressive symptoms can also contribute to difficulty concentrating, which can make it hard for students to retain information, follow instructions, or complete tasks on time. Students with depression may find it hard to find hope in daily situations and can feel lost and without a purpose in the classroom. This can contribute to students not seeing the point in schoolwork or performing well. Students experiencing lack of motivation due to the cognitive effect depression can have on the brain may begin to fall behind in their schoolwork due to a variety of symptoms that are associated with depression. Students with depressive disorders are at risk for poor academic results and resistance to school related activities. It has been shown through research that high involvement in classroom activities can lead to increased academic performance. Students experiencing depressive symptoms are likely to feel little motivation to participate in classroom activities that often increase academic performance. They are less likely to complete homework and academic work outside of school hours. The motivational component to participate in school, interact with peers, and perform well academically can be lost in students experiencing depressive symptoms due to the physiological effects on the brain. This lack of motivation is a key contributor to the poor academic performance that students with depression often display. So now what do we do that we have all this information on how depression impacts students? As a school, there are different ways that can lead to supporting students with depression. Some of these solutions include early depression screenings, prevention intervention, and different interventions embedded in classroom curriculum that include parent involvement. Screenings can be a method used to identify early signs of depression and children who may be at risk for depressive symptoms. Early identification has been shown to be important and helpful because it can allow for students to receive additional support from their classroom teachers. This method can be used in order to alleviate the problem before it becomes an out of control problem in later years. For example, if you knew that a piece of your car was going to break down and eventually the rest of the car would break down, you would fix the small problem as early as you can to prevent needing a completely new car in the future. The same can be the same model can be used in depression, and the earlier we can catch it or at-risk symptoms, we can support students in their classroom and help them before the wheels fall off. These screenings can then be used to incorporate preventative intervention for students who are at risk or already displaying depressive symptoms. Students who participate in school-based preventative intervention with school counselors showed improvement in academic performance. Some of the benefits of in-school intervention are that it is cost-effective and no burden to the parents. Many students who do not receive mental health care for depression are often reported as not receiving care due to financial cost of receiving private therapy or counseling. Transportation can also be a contributor to students not receiving outside services, and schools being able to provide support can help to alleviate this problem. Students can also feel a sense of familiarity with school counselors as they see them in their hallways and working in the building. Students will be more likely to open up and have successful sessions to work on coping with their depressive symptoms and be more successful when they are comfortable with their counselor. Students who report a strong sense of support from their school have better academic performance than students who feel a negative relationship between themselves and their school. This means that school environment and culture is vital in supporting students with depression and allowing them to succeed academically. While school support is important in motivating and helping students with depression succeed, it has also been shown that parental involvement and support is beneficial for students with depressive symptoms. Parental engagement in a program designed to improve parent management practices and parent adolescent relationships can result in collateral benefits to the youth's depressive symptoms. It can sometimes be difficult for parents to know what to do with their children and how to support them. This is where school based curriculum that involves the parents can be extremely useful in building this relationship between student, parent, and school. It has been shown in studies that parent involvement can be linked to motivation in depressed teens. The stronger the support system, the higher the motivation is going to be. So, now here are a couple final thoughts to wrap up the important discussions from the presentation. Decreasing depressive symptoms in the classroom can lead to an increase in students' academic performance due to an increase in their motivation. Because of the physiological effects that depression can have on the brain, it is important to decrease these symptoms through support in the school system so that students can feel a higher sense of motivation and succeed academically in the classroom. Stronger support systems between family, school, and adolescents decrease the prevalence of depressive symptoms in students. Once again, feeling that support in students can increase their academic performance because they feel the strong support from their surrounding peers, school individuals, and family members. Lastly, school based screening is important in identifying at risk students who would benefit from school based intervention and counseling. While working in a school, we have the ability to impact these students and their depressive symptoms to allow them to succeed academically. And here are my references, and thank you for listening to my presentation.